This video is about the famous people and celebrities who passed away in 1988 in the United States. This is the second episode. Before we proceed, please subscribe to our channel to support us. Colleen Moore. She was born in August 1899 and she died in January 1988. Her age was 88 at the time of her death, and the reason for her death was cancer. She was an American actress who began her career during the silent film era. Moore became the most fashionable and highly paid stars of the era and helped popularize the bobbed haircut. Although she was a huge star in her day, approximately half of her films are now considered lost, including her first talking picture from 1929, which was perhaps her most celebrated film. Flaming Youth in 1923 is now mostly lost as well, with only one reel surviving. Moore took hiatus from acting between 1929 and 1933, just as sound was being added to motion pictures. After she returned, her 4 sound pictures, released in 1933 and 1934, were not financial success. She then retired permanently from the screen acting. After her film career, Moore maintained her wealth through astute investments, becoming a partner of Merrill Lynch. She later wrote a how-to book about investing in the stock market. Moore also nurtured a passion for dollhouses throughout her life and helped design and curate the Colin Moore Dollhouse, which has been a featured exhibit at the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago since the early 1950s. Parker Fennelly. He was born in October 1891 and he died in January 1988. His age was 96 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. Fennelly was an American character actor who appeared in 10 films, numerous television episodes, and hundreds of radio programs. In 1915 and 1916, Fennelly toured on the Midland Charcova circuit with Maud Shearer's Shakespeare players. In 1919, he traveled and acted with the Jack X. Lewis Stock Company. Fennelly and author Allen played Yankee Codges on the Stabbin' Boys of Bucksport Point and Snow Village sketches in the early years of radio. Fennelly personified the crusty New England Yankee in roles on radio, films, and television. He was heard weekly as Titus Moody on the Allen's Alley segment of Fred Allen's radio show, where he delivered his most opening line, "Howdy, Bub." Fennelly made numerous appearances on live television shows in the early 1950s, including Lux Video Theater, the Philco Television Playhouse, and Studio One. In later years, Fennelly became a familiar face as the Pepperidge Farm's television spokesman between 1956 and 1977, delivering the slogan, "Pepperidge Farm Remembers," in his New England accent, then toured over the role to Charles C. Welch. Heather O'Rourke. She was born in December 1975 and she died in February 1988. Her age was 12 at the time of her death, and the reason for her death was cardiac arrest. O'Rourke was an American child actress. She had her breakthrough starring as Carol Ann Freeling in the supernatural horror film Poltergeist in 1982, which received critical acclaim and established her as an influential figure in the genre. She went to reprise the role in Poltergeist II, The Other Side, in 1986, The Poltergeist III in 1988, the last of which was released posthumously. O'Rourke also worked in television, appearing in the recurring roles of Heather Pfister on the comedy series Happy Days from 1982 to 1983 and Milade in the sitcom Webster in 1983, as well as starring as Sarah Brogan in the television film Surviving a Family in Crisis in 1985. Throughout her career, O'Rourke was nominated for 6 Young Artist Awards, winning once for her role in Webster. On February 1, 1988, O'Rourke died following 2 cardiac arrests, her cause of death later being ruled as congenital stenosis of the intestine complicating by septic shock. Robert Duncan. He was born in January 1919 and he died in February 1988. His age was 69 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was heart attack. He was an American poet and a devotee of Hilda H.D. Doolittle and the Western esoteric tradition, who spent most of his career in and around San Francisco. Though associated with any number of literary traditions and schools, Duncan is often identified with the poets of the New American Poetry and Black Mountain College. Duncan saw his work as emerging specially from the tradition of Pound, Williams, and Lawrence. Duncan was a key figure in the San Francisco Renaissance. During the 1960s, Duncan achieved considerable artistic and critical success with 3 books: The Opening of the Field in 1960, Roots and Branches in 1969, and Bending the Bow in 1968. These are generally considered to be his most significant works. His poetry is modernist in its preference for the impersonal, mythic, and hieratic, but romantic in its privileging of the organic, the irrational, primordial, the not yet articulate, blindly making its way into language. His correspondence with the British academic and poet Eric Mottram, which began in 1971 and continued through the 1986, is published in The Unruly Garden, Robert Duncan and Eric Mottram, Letters and Essays, edited by Amy Evans and Shamoun Zamer. Frederick Lowe. He was born in June 1901 and he died in February 1988. His age was 86 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. Lowe was a German-American composer. He collaborated with lyricist Alan J. Lerner on a series of Broadway musicals including Brigadoon, Paint Your Wagon, My Fair Lady, and Camelot, all of which were made into films, as well as the original musical Gigi in 1958, which was first transferred on the stage in 1973. Lowe grew up in Berlin and attended a Prussian cadet school from the age of 5 until he was 13. At an early age, Lowe learned to play piano by ear and helped his father rehearse, and he began composing songs at age 7. He eventually attended the Stern Conservatory in Berlin, 1 year behind virtuoso Claudio Arrau, and studied with Ferruccio Busoni and Eugene Dalbert. He won the coveted Hollander Medal Award by the school and gave performances as a concert pianist while still in Germany. At 13, he was the youngest piano soloist ever to appear with Berlin Philharmonic. In 1924, his father received an offer to appear in New York City, and Lowe traveled there with him, determined to write for Broadway. This proved to be difficult, and he took other odd jobs, including cattle punching, gold mining, and prize fighting. He eventually found work playing piano in German clubs in Yorkville and in movie theaters as the accompanist for silent films. Richard Feynman. He was born in May 1918 and he died in February 1988. His age was 69 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was cancer. He was an American theoretical physicist. He is best known for his work in the path of integral formulation of quantum mechanics, the theory of quantum electrodynamics, the physics of the superfluidity of supercooled liquid helium, and in practical physics, for which he proposed the Parton model. For his contribution to the development of quantum electrodynamics, he received the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1965 jointly. He developed a widely used pictorial representation scheme for the mathematical expressions describing the behavior of subatomic particles, which later became known as Feynman diagrams. During his lifetime, Feynman became one of the best-known scientists in the world. In 1999, poll of 130 leading physicists worldwide by the British journal Physics World, he was ranked the 7th greatest physicist of all time. He assisted in the development of the atomic bomb during the Second World War and became known to the wider public in the 1980s as a member of the Rogers Commission, the panel that investigated the Space Shuttle Challenger disaster. Along with his work in theoretical physics, Feynman has been credited with having pioneered the field of quantum computing and introduced the concept of nanotechnology. Harvey Quinn. He was born in December 1930 and he died in February 1988. His age was 57 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was complications from heart disease and diabetes. Quinn was an American professional baseball player, coach, and manager in Major League Baseball. As a shortstop and outfielder, he played with Detroit Tigers from 1952 to 1959, Cleveland Indians from 1960, San Francisco Giants in 1961 to 1965, Chicago Cubs from 1965 to 1966, and Philadelphia Phillies in 1966. Quinn batted and threw right-handed. After retiring, he managed the Milwaukee Brewers in 1975, 1982, and 1983, after winning the American League batting crown in 1959. With a .353 average, Quinn was traded to Cleveland for Rocky Colavito, who had won the home run title with 42 homers. The trade that is often referred by the Cleveland fans as the curse of Rocky Colavito. With the Indians, Quinn hit .308 in the 1960 season. He finished his career in the National League playing for Giants, Cubs, and Phillies, retiring at the end of 1966 season. In a 15-season playing career, Quinn was a .303 hitter with 87 home runs and 671 RBI in 1833 games. He led the AL in hits 4 times and doubles 3 times and finished with 2,092 hits. Thanks for watching the video. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Have a nice day.